Okay, just picture this for a second. You're a decorated intelligence officer, a war veteran. You've got medals straight from the president. Your entire life has been about serving your country. And then, one day, you get an order that makes you question everything. Well, this is the story of what happens when a group of spies decided to say no. And in doing so, they ripped the curtain back on one of the most secretive organizations in the world.
I mean, that's the impossible choice a handful of Russian FSB officers faced back in 1998. Now, the FSB, that's the main successor to the old Soviet KGB. And for these guys, loyalty is everything. It's drilled into them. But suddenly, they were stuck between loyalty to their commanders and loyalty to their own conscience. And the choice they made would change their lives and history forever.
And this was the order that broke them. The target was Boris Berezovsky, who at the time was one of the most powerful and, let's be honest, controversial oligarchs in Russia. He had massive wealth, massive political pull. And the order wasn't a hint, it wasn't a suggestion, it was a direct command. You must kill Berezovsky.
So, on November 17, 1998, a group of active duty officers from the FSB did something that's just, well, it's unthinkable. They called a press conference in the middle of Moscow, sat down in front of all the cameras, and publicly accused their own bosses of ordering them to commit murder.
And you have to understand, these weren't some disgruntled rookies or low-level agents with a grudge. No, these guys were the real deal. They were insiders from an elite unit, literally the tip of the spear in Russia's war against organized crime. So when they spoke, their words carried the weight of years of incredibly dangerous service to the state. So who were these men who were willing to risk literally everything, their careers, their freedom, maybe even their lives, to go public like this? To really get why this was such a bombshell, you have to know who we're talking about. And honestly, their service records speak for themselves.
The face of the group, the one you've probably heard of, was Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Litvinenko. He was a deeply experienced operative who'd spent his career going head-to-head with the very gangsters his unit was supposed to be taking down.
But here's the key thing. He wasn't alone, not by a long shot. He had other officers right there with him, like Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Gusak and Major Andrei Ponkin. They were showing a united front against what they basically described as a criminal cancer that was growing inside their own agency.
I mean, just look at this. We're talking about men with chests full of medals for valor, for courage. Many of them earned fighting in the brutal Chechen war. Some had even been personally commended by the president of Russia. These weren't troublemakers, these were heroes of the state.
And what they came forward to say was that this assassination plot wasn't just some one-off, crazy idea. No, they alleged it was the final step in a really disturbing pattern of illegal commands that were coming straight down from the top.
At the press conference, they laid out this whole timeline, which really started heating up in late 1997. And as you can see, each order they got pushed them closer and closer to a line that, as soldiers, they just refused to cross.
It all kicked off in September '97. The first order was actually against one of their own, a former FSB guy who was suing the agency. The officers claimed they were told to handle him. Frame him by planting a weapon, rough him up, or, if they had to, eliminate him. They said no, quietly, and just didn't do it. Then, just 2 months later, the orders got even more wild. This time, they were told to kidnap a well-known businessman named Dzhabrailov. But here's the catch. Dzhabrailov's security team included official Moscow police officers. So the mission basically meant they might have to kill other Russian cops. And for these guys, that was a hard line in the sand. They weren't going to kill their brothers from another agency, period. And this is really the heart of the matter, right? They suddenly found themselves in a direct clash with their own commanders, who they now believed weren't running a state security service anymore. They felt they were being used as the muscle for a criminal organization. And then, in December of '97, came the final straw. The orders stopped being subtle. According to Litvinenko, his superior just came up to him and spelled it out, plain and simple. The target was Berezovsky. The order was to kill him. So you've got this total clash of two different worlds happening inside the FSB. On one side, you have these officers who believe their job is to uphold the law and serve the state. On the other, you have superiors who they claim are ordering them to kidnap people, to kill people, and, get this, in one meeting, they were even told to lead organized crime. I mean, can you even imagine?
Now, before they ever thought about going to the press, they tried to fix the problem from the inside. They did what you're supposed to do. Litvinenko and his men took their unbelievable complaint straight to the very top, to the director of the FSB himself. They laid it all out, hoping the system would actually work and clean itself up.
But the system didn't work. In fact, it did the opposite. It turned on them. And that's what forced their hand. That's what led them to sit in front of those cameras and tell the world what was happening.
The blowback from their internal report was immediate. They claimed their complaint was leaked right back to the very bosses they had accused. All of a sudden, they were being pressured to take it all back. Their service weapons were confiscated, their offices were sealed shut, and they started getting these messages that they took as very real threats. And it wasn't just the few men who spoke up. In the end, a total of 8 officers from their elite unit got suspended. The message was clear. Anyone who was seen as disloyal to this new way of doing things was purged.
So they felt like they were backed into a corner, fearing for their lives and their families' lives. Going public was a last resort, almost like a life insurance policy. And Litvinenko ended that press conference with an absolutely chilling warning. He compared what was happening to the darkest days of Stalin's purges in 1937. For them, this was never just about a few bad orders. It was about the soul of their entire country. Which really leaves us with this huge, difficult question that goes way beyond this one story. When the very institutions that are supposed to protect the law are the ones breaking it, what is the actual duty of a soldier or a spy or a police officer? It makes you wonder, what would you do?